8 years ago, my world unraveled in a single night. My husband, Mark, discovered my affair with my colleague, James. For months, he'd sensed something was off. My late nights at the office, sudden weekend work trips, the emotional distance that had crept between us. He wasn't wrong to be suspicious. When he found the text messages, undeniable proof of my betrayal, his face wasn't filled with anger but with a quiet devastation that cut deeper than any argument could. There was no grand romance with James, no epic love story. It was a series of reckless decisions born from a restless ache in my life. I'd been with the firm for 6 years, and James, confident and attentive in ways Mark hadn't been in years, became my escape. What started as casual banter over coffee turned into something I justified as harmless, then thrilling, then necessary. But it was a lie I told myself. The night Mark confronted me, he didn't shout or demand answers. He just stayed, his trust in me shattered, and left. For 3 days, he was gone. When he returned, it was only to pack his things. Our marriage, once a cornerstone of my life, was over. In the months that followed, I couldn't face James or the office gossip, so I took a leave and eventually quit. Mark filed for divorce swiftly, and I didn't fight it. There was nothing left to salvage. I moved into a small apartment, far from our old life. The silence there was both a refuge and a punishment, a constant echo of what I'd lost. The divorce finalized in 7 months. With no kids, the legal process was straightforward, but the emotional toll was crushing. Friends picked sides, family ties strained, and I was left in a loneliness I'd built myself. I tried to start over. I joined a new company, a smaller one where my past was unknown. But guilt and shame trailed me like shadows. Work became my distraction, but it couldn't fill the void of what I'd destroyed. Therapy became my lifeline, forcing me to face the truth. The affair wasn't about James. It was about my own dissatisfaction, my failure to confront the cracks in my marriage with Mark. Instead of talking to him, I'd chosen betrayal, and that choice broke us both. Mark moved on faster than I did. Within a year, he was dating Laura, a warm, grounded woman who seemed his perfect match. I heard they were happy, and while it hurt, I was glad he'd found peace. 3 years after the divorce, we crossed paths at a mutual friend's party. Our brief conversation was polite but distant, his eyes carrying a faint trace of the old pain. It brought my regret roaring back. Over time, therapy and a support group for people who'd experienced infidelity, some as the betrayed, some as betrayers like me, helped me see my actions more clearly. Sharing my story, hearing others' pain, showed me how deeply my choices had wounded not just Mark, but my own sense of self. By the 5th year, I started to find peace. I launched a small bakery with a coworker, a dream I'd long buried. It wasn't a replacement for the life I'd lost, but it was a step towards something real. Around then, I learned Mark and Laura were engaged. The news stirred a mix of emotions, genuine joy for him, and a quiet grief for the life I might have had if I'd been braver, more honest. 8 years on, Mark and Laura are married with a newborn daughter. I sent a congratulatory note, expecting nothing back. To my surprise, Mark replied, suggesting we meet for coffee, not to rekindle anything, but to find closure. When we met, it was like reconnecting with a stranger I'd once known intimately. We talked about our lives, the roads we'd traveled since. Mark admitted the affair had crushed him, but he also owned his part, how he'd been distant, how we'd both let our marriage fray. His words didn't erase my guilt, but they lightened it. He said he'd forgiven me, not for me, but to free himself for his new life. We parted with a mutual understanding. Our shared story was over, and we were both okay with that. Today, my bakery is thriving beyond what I'd imagined. I've started dating again, approaching it with care and clarity about what I want and can offer. I've learned that happiness isn't in fleeting thrills, but in building a life that aligns with who I aspire to be. The affair was my greatest mistake, but it forced me to confront parts of myself I'd ignored. I'm not the person I was 8 years ago, and for that, I'm grateful. The weight of my choices lingers, but it's lighter now. In losing my marriage, I found a deeper truth about myself, a hard-won lesson that's become my most enduring strength.